I'm going to come right off the bat and just tell you guys that this week's NXT show, in my opinion, wasn't good. I really didn't enjoy this NXT show this week. The only segment which really had any big impact on the show or NXT or storylines in general for our NXT, in my opinion, was the main event segment itself. And I'll get onto that at the end of the show. But everything else you really could have skipped, and it wouldn't really have been that much of an issue. Just watch the main event on this show. You don't really need to watch anything else, in my opinion, apart from some odd little tiny bits on the show that I'll talk about in a second. First thing I want to say is the ring announcer, generally on NXT, hasn't been sounding very good lately. But this week, it sounds like they've got someone who actually has some kind of ring announcing voice. Much, much better than some of the amateur announcers they usually bring in, like they've had lately. If you have any comments on this show or anything that I'm going to talk about in this review, please feel free to let me know down in the comment section below. So our first match on this show was Adrian Neville versus Wesley Blake, who essentially is a jobber with a cowboy hat on, people. But it is important now that WWE and NXT in particular build up Adrian Neville, as we find out in the main event segment. He's going to be having a match with Bo Dallas on the first live show they're going to have, on the WWE network. So it's important that they do build up Adrian Neville by giving him wins. They give him a win over Tyler Breeze in the opener last week, and I know this was a jobber, but it was quite a quick match, and Adrian Neville gets the win. It's important to build this guy up if he's going to look believable against a guy like Bo Dallas, who we found out on this show and was going to be in the main event, was going to celebrate being the longest reigning NXT champion, since the title belt was there a year ago, I guess. But this match was simply there to build up Adrian Neville, to give him another win on the card. Even though he was going to be in the main event segment, I do wonder why he needed to be on this show per se, as he was going to be in the main event segment. But nonetheless, this is still effective somewhat in building Adrian Neville up, even if I didn't really find this very entertaining and I skipped through most of the match until the finish. Because that's what really matters when Adrian Neville wrestles, the finish, because his finish is so damn awesome. In our next match, we got Xavier Woods versus Alexander Rusev. We saw this match, I believe, last week or 2 weeks ago, one of the two. And, like I said, we've only just seen this match. And it isn't really, in my opinion, one of those matches you can do twice and keep it interesting. Rusev rammed through Xavier Woods, to punish him for the authority storyline, etc. And that should really have been the end of it. But now they're having another match on this show, and it's like, does this really need to happen again? You've made Rusev look dominant over Xavier Woods, and now you're just basically doing the same thing again. This is an example of a match that should just be a one done and dusted match. Doing it again, in my opinion, is just really pointless. It doesn't really build up Alexander Rusev all that much. I just want to touch briefly on the Xavier Woods character. I did like Xavier Woods in NXT. I really did. And then he came to the WWE roster, specifically on Raw and partially SmackDown. And I guess the thing I don't like about Xavier Woods' character is basically he doesn't have his own character. He's basically the new Funkasaurus, and I wanted Xavier Woods to debut with his own character, with something specific to him. But no, they gave him Brodus Clay's character and pretty much brought him as an excuse to turn Brodus Clay heel, and that's really it. So you got a guy from NXT who's using someone else's gimmick to turn that guy heel. And it's like, it just feels like this guy is more of a cog rather than someone they actually want to push on the show. That's just how I feel about it. And it just really bugs me, that does. On Raw and SmackDown, Antonio Cesaro doesn't really feel very significant. He just kind of feels there, like he's not really an important part of the show. But when he comes down to NXT, he feels like a big deal. He feels like a big star because he had a long US title run. So him coming from Raw and SmackDown down to NXT gives the show a little bit of star power. And you'd think WWE or NXT in particular would want to make use of this star power and have him feud with some big names in NXT. They've done it with Leo Kruger. They've done it with Sami Zayn. They've done it with William Regal. They've done it with many different names on the NXT roster. So why are WWE wasting Cesaro facing CJ Parker? Really? You're going to have Antonio Cesaro make an appearance on NXT to face CJ fucking Parker? A character that the crowd clearly don't care about because they've been booing him since day one. Such a terrible character. Why would anyone get behind a hippie guy? In this day and age, people don't really like hippie guys as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know. Maybe I don't know that much. But as far as I'm concerned, people don't like hippies all that much. So why the fuck would the NXT crowd get behind CJ Parker, who is essentially a multicolored hair hippie? I don't know. But I didn't really care about this match. Cesaro won very quickly, and that's all that really mattered. What mattered to me most was the couple of things that happened afterwards. You had Sami Zayn coming out on crutches, basically saying he had a great year in 2013, probably the best year of his wrestling career, but he will always, lost to Cesaro in the 2 out of 3 Falls match, which was a match of the year. will always stick in his mind, and he wants a rematch because he wants to rectify for that. It's all part of character building for Sami Zayn. And Cesaro just comes up to him and says, no. So I imagine, that's kind of funny, but I imagine that NXT are now going to maybe build a rematch between these two, potentially down the line by having Cesaro just say no every time, and Sami Zayn is going to try and get this rematch. I reckon that's probably the way they'll do it, especially seeing as Sami Zayn right now is injured, so they're probably going to try and work it into an angle somewhere there. I think if they do have a rematch, this should be the last one they have. You know, they had a really good match last time. They're never, ever, ever going to be able to beat that match again, in my opinion. So if they have one rematch, that's fine. Nothing more than that, in my opinion. That will be fine. As for this face-off between Miz and CJ Parker, again, when you bring Miz down to NXT, who is essentially, not that big of a deal on the WWE roster, but has been in WrestleMania main events, has been WWE champion, why are you wasting him on CJ Parker? On this show, CJ Parker was in a segment with Antonio Cesaro and The Miz. Why? He's one of the most irrelevant characters on NXT right now. I'll tell you what, at least in this backstage stuff they did with Miz and CJ, at least he's acknowledging that he's getting booed, so at least NXT and him aren't oblivious to it, like the Bo Dallas character used to be before he actually turned heel. And backstage, you have Miz saying how he's going to bring Miz TV to NXT and he's going to be the most must-see NXT ever. And then you have CJ Parker interrupting him, slapping him. And I'm just thinking to myself, do not give CJ Parker a segment or a match with The Miz, because I will not give a fuck about it, and it will probably be the main event segment. I don't care about CJ Parker. I wouldn't care if CJ Parker faced an Austin Aries. I still wouldn't give a shit. Because CJ Parker is my fucking buzzkill on NXT. And why the hell are they wasting him on guys like The Miz and Antonio Cesaro? Why the hell are they wasting Antonio Cesaro and Miz on a guy like CJ Parker? I don't understand. The only thing I can say about this is no, 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 no. You know the show is bad when even the Divas segment doesn't really get you going. You know, we had a backstage segment with Charlotte. I mean, wow, we've finally seen Charlotte for the first time in what feels like a month or two. And apparently she's been enjoying the benefits of being a Flair, the high-riding, limousine-riding, whatever you want to say. I don't know. But apparently that's why she's been away, because she's hanging around with the somebodies now. And that means she doesn't make an appearance on NXT. As for the match between Natalya and Summer Rae, again, it just felt there. I mean, I thought they were going to do something with Bayley and, you know, the BFFs, etc. I thought they were going to do something there, but really it was just a match. You had Renee Young on commentary, which is always good, but they just had a match. It was very, very short as well, and this was the only match on the show I really watched in full, apart from the main event match, and that's how little I thought of the show. You know, even the match was very short. Even the Divas segment, I really didn't think was all that good this week, and I really wasn't even that interested in that segment, really. I don't know why. Maybe it was just the way the show was going, but I just wasn't that interested. One thing I am interested on, though, right now, is a lot of people have been seeing Emma popping up on Raw and SmackDown with Evolution, signs that she's got, and this is actually quite awesome. She looks like a fan. She really does. She just looks like she's a fan there with a sign. She doesn't actually look like a wrestler, which is doesn't actually look like someone who stands out from a crowd, which is kind of funny. But I do wonder what WWE are doing here, whether they're just testing the waters of Emma, but this is awesome. Emma is actually making it onto Raw and SmackDown right now. This would be awesome. Why not wear some vignettes or something to help this? Because just having her in the crowd and maybe acknowledging her once or twice every show isn't exactly going to do well to get a name out there. You want to give her some video packages or make her name known or something. But it is awesome that WWE are actually using her gimmick on Raw and SmackDown as a fan, as someone in the crowd, and they're sort of like pointing out every show. It's really funny, in my opinion, but that's that. That was a highlight of Raw, in my opinion, seeing Emma. And I didn't realise that last week. I only realised this week when I watched a little bit of Raw, and then they started mentioning Emma. I'm like, Emma? Emma's on Raw and SmackDown? What the fuck? I can't wait for this week's SmackDown, which will be uploaded yesterday, by the way, until I might actually talk about it a little bit on there as well. So we had a backstage segment with Enzo Amore where basically the theme of it is that he's injured, but he's going to be coming back soon. And then we get Aiden English coming in, and Aiden English does his usual stick. And then as Enzo Amore goes to leave in his wheelchair, he runs over Aiden English's foot. That was hilarious. You know what it reminded me of? Maybe you Americans don't know this, but you British people should know this. It kind of reminded me of Brian Potter off Phoenix Nights, for all of you that are aware. It was just hilarious. Aiden English got his foot ran over by Enzo Amore's wheelchair. Surprised he didn't kick him in the nuts while he was there as well, to be honest with you. So it turned out in the main event of this show, Bo Dallas was celebrating beating Seth Rollins' reign as NXT champion 224 days. You know, that's all fine and good, but the belt has only been around for a year or so it doesn't really give that much cause for celebration. It's not like you've beaten a record that was made like 20 years ago or a massive record. There's only been 3 champions. So is that really cause for celebration? Maybe this was just an excuse to get Bo Dallas on the show, which is fine, but you know, the belt hasn't been around for that long, so it's not going to be that hard or that much of a celebration to break a record, really, is it? As for the segment itself, you've got to love how delusional Bo Dallas is with his crowd reactions. It's like, he just seems to think the crowd are cheering him, "Let's go, Bo," when they're chanting, "No more Bo." And it's just, it is hilarious how when this guy was a face, it was annoying, but now he's heel and he's trying to be delusional. It's actually really funny, and I find it hilarious. And what I also find hilarious was the people he thanked in this segment. He thanked his 3rd cousin, his 4th grade history teacher, and his sister's college roommate. They're all there in the crowd as well, which was probably made up, but that was funny. And then it comes to the bannering, you know, when they bring down the banner of Bo Dallas's, and it's just a shitty little banner in the top corner in Full Sail. I was expecting a massive banner, but it was just like a tiny banner in the top corner of Full Sail. I was just like, is this it? Is this all they do to celebrate it? Very menial, but it was just hilarious. So that bit was hilarious. Then we have the mic master, Adrian Neville, coming up, issuing a challenge to Bo Dallas, even though he's issued 2 challenges already and lost them both times. You know, but instead of picking up on that, he picks up on the fact that he beat a nobody in 4 minutes and 45 seconds. You'd think the thing you'd pick out there was the fact that I've beaten you twice, rather than the fact that, well, it took you 4 minutes 45 seconds to beat a nobody. But the reason why that was there is because of the next segment, because we have Triple H. Yeah, that's right, God, as like Daddy would say. Triple H on NXT gets on the Tron and says that Adrian Neville will get his shot if he lasts 4 minutes 45 seconds in the ring with Bo Dallas to get a title shot on the live show on February the 27th, I believe. So we got that. So we got Adrian Neville versus Bo Dallas, who was still in his suit, by the way. And, you know, in this, they set this up there, but I really had no way of suspending my disbelief, because I've seen Adrian Neville and Bo Dallas go at it twice now, and the matches have both lasted longer than 10 minutes. So it's really hard for me as a fan to suspend my disbelief that there was any way in fucking hell that Bo Dallas was really going to win this match, even though he was in a suit and some quite nice shoes, by the way. So I just really couldn't suspend my disbelief, which meant I really couldn't get into this match. You know, I knew Adrian Neville was going to win. It was very obvious, you know, just if you used logic. So, you know, I don't know about this match, but it set up a main event match, you know, even though it's Adrian Neville versus Bo Dallas 3, which is probably one too many, but we'll give them one more shot at this. Maybe they can pull off a really good match, which maybe they can pull off a match that was a bit better than their match on NXT 200. But it's going to be Adrian Neville versus Bo Dallas 3 next week. Tell me how you feel about this. You know, I think because of Sami Zayn's injury, they're probably going to give it to him. But because of that injury, they have to give it to Adrian Neville. And I think Adrian Neville is the next best person to actually go after the belt, even though he's already had 2 opportunities. So I'll just say that. Let me know how you felt about this main event segment and the way it played down with Triple H, you know, giving him the shot if you could beat him in 4 minutes, 45 seconds. It was quite funny also at the end of the match when Adrian Neville just realised he had 30 seconds left and was just running away, you know, from Bo Dallas. Usually that's the kind of thing a heel would do. But if I was in this situation, I'd probably run away from him as well, knowing that it would give me a guaranteed title shot. So I guess that's logical. Anyway, I'm going to go on to my reports on this show now.